I know I wasn't supposed to be on this video, but I know I wasn't supposed to be getting online, but I feel like I need to address something that's going on recently this past week that I've noticed a recurring situation. So earlier I believe this month, came a situation. Another innocent life was taken. This time, it was during this pandemic situation in Minnesota, and I believe in Minneapolis or Minnesota. A man by the name of George Floyd was killed innocently. He was suspected by local police, and he was held down by his head on a knee by one of the police officers who was trying to apprehend him while he had screamed that he could not breathe. After he had screamed that he was in uncomfort and could not breathe, to the point that he was taken to the hospital, where he died several hours later. Since that situation happened, the two policemen have been charged have been fired from the department who apprehended him. The mayor has asked that they be charged for murder, and riots have happened in the streets in Minneapolis because of this situation. Well, the black life lost. And I didn't want to say anything, but you've probably noticed on Twitter, mostly on Twitter, that I've been retweeting a lot about the situation from other people and their opinions about it. From many celebrities to many of my fellow friends who've talked about this situation happening. I didn't want to say my piece about it, but something ran across me recently this week that also happened that was less of a trigger situation and becoming more overbearing than this situation that's happening right now. Recently, people have been asking to associate a cancel culture with a certain situation that happened 20 years ago. Now, 20 years ago, apparently someone resurfaced for 20 years ago, comedian Jimmy Fallon, who hosts recently The Tonight Show, NBC. Someone resurfaced a footage from 20 years ago when Jimmy was part of Saturday Night Live during his early career, of Jimmy doing an impersonation of Chris Rock on the show in blackface. And now people are addressing to have him be officially canceled. Now, Jimmy has made an official statement. He has officially apologized. He has made an apology statement since that situation. And I've noticed recently online that people are making more of a deal of a comedian of non-color doing an impersonation of a colored comedian on television 20 years ago, when comedy was entirely different, to a situation of an innocent black man who was assaulted and murdered by policemen for something he did not commit. And this is not just happening in the culture of white people in the sense of it, because usually that when racism violations happen, when violent incidents happen for innocent black people, the first people to speak out are people of non-color who are supposedly supportive of our culture. But this has been going for everyone in that culture, in the culture apparently. They're more striking about the fact that Jimmy Fallon did something in blackface more than an innocent black man, more than George Floyd's death. And I am livid in the moment right now, because most of it's coming from not just my generation, but younger generations as well. And that's what has me really peeved right now, to make me speak about this right now. Are we really going to make a big deal about a comedian who did something 20 years ago that he probably didn't remember, that he probably feel bad for because he's changed his entire culture of his comedy aesthetic now to something that happened 20 years ago compared to something that happened recently to a man's life because he was suspected for a crime that he did not commit. But he, of course, fit the description. Are we really doing this, America? Are we really doing this? Really? I have never been more disgusted at my generation and sense of it if I've ever been in my life, honestly. Now, I am not one to talk much in the sense of the case of it, me being a black young man myself. I could have been George Floyd. I could have been any of the innocent black men who have died under either police brutality in the sense of it. I could have been. When I was growing up, my father always told me two things. When you're born as a black man from your mother's womb, two things happens. They make a jail cell for you to sit in, and they make a grave for you to bury yourself in. That's what they do to black men. Now, that may not happen truly to some people. People may have many notions to say that's not true, but that's the mentality my father had to embed upon me for 30 years. Because anything I do is like walking on eggshells as a black man because of what's going on in this culture today. That's how I have to live. And for people to say that we're more worried about something in the cut that needs to be cancel cultured compared to an innocent life. That man had a family. And yet people are more worried about a blackface situation that happened 20 years ago than an innocent black man who died. Has to be the most wretched thing I've ever seen in my life. It's more fucked up than I've ever imagined. Now, I'm not saying blackfaces should be passed. I'm not going Megyn Kelly on the whole thing on blackface. Let's make that clear. That's not a good thing because there's still certain things in the blackface culture that happened years ago, that happened recently in some cases that happened that should not be okay. But we're focusing on the wrong things here, people. We really are. When Julianne Hough did Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black, yeah, we were wrong for her on that sense of it. We didn't need to cancel culture her, but we did need to strike her out for that. When Megyn Kelly mentioned about the fact that a housewife did it to tribute to Diana Ross, at the moment, we were right to call her out. But if we're going to go off of people's past situations, are we going to talk about Billy Crystal doing blackface with Sammy Davis? Are we going to talk about Gene Wilder doing blackface in the parody in Blue Streak? Are we really going to bring those up? Those happened years ago when comedy changed a lot of times in that sense of it. Like, it would have been wrong to do that in the modern times of situations. But we're going off of things that happened in the past. This is, in a way, this is like the same situation with James Gunn. People went off of James Gunn to cancel him because of old tweets of his old mentality before he became the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it got him fired. It wasn't until the fans and the people who supported his work had to endeavor to get him back because people wanted to cancel him. That's the wrong way of cancel culture. Right, cancel culture. When Tana Mojo used the N-word on Snapchat, Tana Mojo is some thought YouTuber, in case you don't know who she is. I'm pretty sure y'all do know who it is. But some thought YouTuber, white girl, who used the N-word and thought it was cool in that sense of it at the time that she used it. That makes sense in the cancel. Or to indict her on that sense of it. But again, 20 years ago, Jimmy's mentality has changed. Jimmy probably didn't have a family or kids at the time he was doing that show, Saturday Night Live. I'm pretty sure of it. As a family man now, he has a wife and kids. I'm pretty sure he regrets doing that, even if he didn't remember. Hell, Jimmy Fallon, I believe Jimmy Kimmel did a blackface sketch too, and I'm pretty sure he regretted that. It's just, it boggles my mind, the fact that we are appropriating cancel culture to the wrong things. Especially things of old people's, mostly skeletons in the closet of the situation. I've come to know in this world, not everyone is perfect, and not everyone is a saint. But not everybody's a sinner. There are some bad people. There are good people in this world who have done bad things, no matter how much good they've done. From Joel Osteen to even President Obama. It don't matter who you are. It's more, there will always be people who have done wrong things in the sense of it, and they've regretted it in their past. It's what you do in the future from that past situations to rectify that, especially if it's things that you've done years ago when you were younger. But if you've done things in the current, with the whatever bit, yes, you should be judged on that sense of it. But again, the Jimmy situation wouldn't have been a problem if it was done currently. If it was done currently, it would have been a problem. But this is 20 years ago, people. And we're going off of that. And that's what gets me really boggled right now, is the fact that people are going after him for this situation. And yet, George Floyd, a man who had a family, people who loved him in the city, is dead because of the fact that two officers with body cams suspected him like every other black man has been suspected. And it sickens me to my stomach every time I see a black man, innocent black man, get killed. Now, me being the guy who has a lot of white friends in the sense of it, I know a lot of my white friends have stated many times have been spoken more about it than I am. And a lot of black people are probably telling me, my fellow black people are telling me, why am I not saying anything about it? Because I rather show an action by doing things, donating money, letting other people speak on behalf of it. I'm not going to say I'm the loudest. I'm not the loudest in the room, but I do speak a little bit on my actions. But if there's someone else who I respect a lot more, who speaks louder than me, I'm going to let them use the voice for me. Because I don't have to say much when everything else has been said. I don't want to be a broken record about it. Yes, I should say something about it, which is why I'm saying something now. Don't think for a second that I'm not mad. I am pissed. My mother, when I lived in Arizona with my mother several years ago, my mom was scared for me for nights that I used to walk out in the streets of Arizona and Mesa, scared that I would die from a gang violence or police brutality. More because of police brutality than gang violence. She was more scared for me dying from that. And I had to comfort her, let her know I'm okay. Because of the fact that I had to watch my back on a constant. That's why I gained my sleep apnea in some cases, because there were moments I had to sleep with one eye open. I'm not from the hood. I'm not from the streets. I am anything that. I was born in the suburban area of middle class. I lived in an apartment complex. I was raised in an apartment complex where 20% people were black and 80% of the people, the neighbors, were white. But at the same time, my parents never let me forget about my roots. Don't think for a second, just because I have a lot of white friends, that I don't forget about it in the sense of it. Because at the end of the day, I still got to look out for myself and my own. Especially when it comes to the point of the end of this world. And if it's going to be a point where I can't trust any cop, even with the body cam on, then it's going to come to that point that I'm looking out for me and my family. But I'll be damned. I'll be damned if I'm gonna have to sit here and if people are gonna say I'm not saying anything about it. If people are gonna judge me for not saying anything about it because of the situation. And right now, I'm more pissed about this whole cancel culture situation, making a bigger deal about it than a situation that is more important. We're in a situation of crisis right now because people want to go to work. People rather go out and have fun and activeness when there is a biological danger that's going on right now that's killing thousands of people all over the world, and they rather go out and just be nitty gritty and enjoy their lives about it. I see these people on the news, on television, going out in these beaches and forests and enjoying their stuff because they want to just have a normal life, because they don't want to stay quarantined because of a biological situation that's happening right now that they don't think it's either real, it's some conspiracy theory, or some other bullshit. So I got to look out for my mom, who's very low in her health, because anything but a cough could be like a biological pandemic for her. But I'll be damned. I'll be damned if I'm gonna be one of those idiots out here in the world right now. And the last thing we need to do while we're dealing with this health crisis is focus on something that happened 20 years ago and not focus on the initiative of what's happening right now in this culture. I told people before, it's as simple as this. On one hand of it, I'm listening to every rock and metal band that I can listen to. But on the other hand, I still have that painting of Harriet Tubman's Underground Railroad on my wall, because I don't forget. On one end, my white roommates and I still talk about the stupid stuff that goes on in the culture of the world. But at the same time, I watch Malcolm X to remind me where I came from. My father and I have not had a solidified relationship, but there have been many times that I do appreciate him reminding me that it's not easy for a black man to survive and live in this world because of what goes on in this world, because you are suspected of anything you do. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you eat, the way you dress, the way you look at a white woman, the way you look or talk to a white person in the sense of a person non-color, the way you even talk to your own kind in front of police or any other person of non-color, anything I do can always raise that stakes of a situation that'll make it seem like I'm in danger. Anytime. My roommates at times would make jokes, racial jokes in the sense of it. Me being the only person of color in this house, we'll make racial jokes in the comment of it, which, you know, I can tolerate time to time. But at the end of the day, they know if something happened to me as a black man and dealt with police, I know for a fact they ain't going to look the other way. And if they do, then it shows who their true colors are. But at the end of, like I said, at the end of the day, in this situation, I have a target on my back more than they do. Me being black, a man, and person with mental illness just puts a target on my back on a constant level. And the last thing I want to deal with is hearing people dealing with shit when it comes to a comedian for 20 years ago having to deal with a joke that he still probably regrets in doing, compared to an innocent black man who was on the streets, his head in the ground next to his car, planted on the ground with his head trampled on the knee of a police officer, while he's screaming at the top of his lungs, "I can't breathe," because the cops were trying to resist him. When the man has done nothing wrong, had no firearms on him, had no drug paraphernalia, nothing. He had nothing on him. Nothing. And yet the cop felt he was still a threat and felt that necessary caution by putting his knee on his head, choking him out, was the necessary precaution to do. Not a taser, not having two other officers help him in holding him in at least through his arm for arrest. No. Planting his knee on his head, he felt was the necessary action to do. It's sad that even the mayor of Minnesota even says the officer should be charged for murder. That tells you the seriousness of this. The riots that happened down there in that city speak for itself. And the fact that this is being overshadowed over something of a cancel culture, which sickens me. It really does. There are certain people, I think the guys at doubletoasted.com said it best when they mentioned about this. They're assholes, racists, homophobes, idiots of our culture, especially on YouTube. The whole thing with this Keemstar versus Ethan shit, with this apocalypse shit, it's not even important. Shit like that needs to be cancel culture. But you know what doesn't need to be cancel culture? Shit that happens 20 years ago for people who've had different mindsets in this race situation. This should not be focused on cancel culture. Because, honestly, like they said, then we need to cancel culture. That needs to be dropped immediately. It just pisses me off to know that that's more of a situation and an issue and a topic that's important, that's being made important, than a situation that happens to a man who died. Now, I don't know much about George Floyd as much as everyone else, except for what I know in that situation from most of his family and in the situation that happened. I know up to the moment that it happened. I know up to the situation what happened to him before his death, and I know at least some of his family. But there have been many other men who have died in this same situation from police brutality. Fathers, sons, grandfathers, uncles, men who have died, who have done nothing wrong. And then what's even worse is situations that's happening even pre-notice. Like recently what happened, a white woman who was walking her dog in a place that's off limits calls the police on a black man who's filming her, who's telling her she's not supposed to be there, basically calls the police on him saying that he's threatened her life. I believe Karen are the terms they're using. Or the woman in, I believe, Utah or Kansas, Barbecue Betty, I believe her name is. Woman who calls the police on a black family who's barbecuing out there because it's off limits. Or the woman in New York or in the city who calls the police on a biracial woman and her biracial mother and her daughter because she's selling water on the streets because she felt that she was being too loud. This has gotten repetitive over the last 2 years. This has gotten repetitive. It's become ridiculous. I remember seeing a short film that someone posted, and I had to tell people that's actually how we deal with it. A black man walks into an elevator with a white woman, and the white woman takes one notice at the black man, and the black man looks sophisticated, dressed nicely, sophisticated, clean, respectfully looking, like he's a businessman. Yet the white woman clutches her purse harder the moment she sees him walk into that elevator. Now, I don't remember what film this is, but that struck a chord with me because it's the actual true definition of what we have to deal with in our society still today. And it's more about the suspecting typecasting. I am so sick of the typecasting that we have been getting for the last 20, 30 something years, or even longer than that. When is it that people of non-color are going to realize not every black person is a terrorist or a threat like that? Hell, not even most of the rappers in our society even act like this in a sense of it. Thanks to Billie Eilish, most of the rappers you know now lie. So if you know they lie, because Billie Eilish is even saying that, who y'all worship the fuck out of, maybe y'all should realize, well, then maybe every rapper's not like that. So if you see Redman and Method Man, you think they're going to start shooting at you? I mean, it's fucking stupid. It really is fucking stupid. When I got into music at one point, that was really the reason what I wanted to do was change that nature, but it overpowered because of the fact. Why? Because, like I said to many of my white friends, unfortunately, there is stupid in every race. There are black people in our society that, believe it or not, have made us look bad even worse. I mean, Kanye West is a perfect example of that situation. And I used to be a fan of Kanye. I've told people this before. I went to see him when he first came to concert. Back in 2005, I went to see him, College Dropout Tour, House of Blues, Orlando, Florida. Went to see him live. Was the greatest moment of my life then. And the moment that situation happened with him and TMC, my heart sank. I got into music because of him. The man went to all over the world because his mother was a Harvard professor. Donda West is a Harvard professor. And that woman would be rolling in her grave to see the shit that he's done over the last several years. That's how I still feel to this day. I have to say it. Nobody is wanting to say it. The moment Donda West died is the moment that Kanye just was not the Kanye we came to love anymore, honestly. A piece of Kanye died with her. But then there's people like him in the world that ridicule for us. People like Candace Owens who ruin it for us. People like Stacey Dash who ruin it for us. That makes us look bad, but yet people worship these people, these black people. But then there are black people who've made a difference for ourselves in the sense of it, who've been struck down, violated, become victims of assault, verbally and physically. And innocent black people who've never had done anything wrong in their lives being taken their life away because of who they are, their race, their standpoint. It sickens me. It really sickens me. So for those out there who wonder how I feel about George Floyd, that's my 2 cents. Because I'm sick and tired of this world making more of a difference about Jimmy Fallon's actions from 20 years ago than George Floyd's death. And for anybody out there who feels that way about it, who feels that George Floyd's death is less important than Jimmy Fallon's situation, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself if you are a person of color. You should be ashamed of yourself if you're a person who supports people of color and against racism. You're a person who should be ashamed of yourself of the culture. If you think that a joke of blackface for 20 years ago that was mistakenly done wrong is more important than an innocent man's black death by police brutality, you should be ashamed of yourself. You are not truly respecting your culture. You are true not when you say Black Lives Matter either. Don't ever in your life consider that. In the links below, I've put down several donation funds that are officially through George Floyd's family and through the people of Minnesota that will directly go towards the funds of it. These are ones that are verified. If you cannot use those links, they will also be listed on my Twitter. I would recommend anybody who truly understands about this situation to spend as much as they can to these donations, because they will make a difference. This is what we can do as of right now. We may not have been able to save his life, but we can do something to pass on to the next generation and the next people and let people know that we should not be silent about this. I wasn't supposed to come back on this channel with this video, but I had to speak my mind because I'm I've had people come to me asking about it. And I feel like I have to speak my 2 cents, because nothing makes me more upset to know that something of the culture and jokes that happens years ago that was wrong is being more important than what's happening now. Because if we don't do something now to fix this, it's going to get even worse. If you need to discuss anything with me, I, of course, will be on my Twitter. And I hope you at least listened and take account of what I've addressed.